Good morning, everyone, and happy Sunday to all of you. I just wanted to say, take a quick second to please ask you, if you haven't already, to go over and give our Facebook page a quick like, Earth and Sky Center. I will be posting the link down below. And I also just wanted to say how much I really appreciate each and every one of you who join us live every week. If this is your first time joining us, then welcome. It's so great to have you watching us, whether you watch us on occasion or you watch us every week. Also, a big thank you to those who join us in person. Actually, this week I am not doing it in person. We are pre-recording this week's Sunday service, and hopefully it's being uploaded at the regularly scheduled time. That is our goal. And I just wanted to say a big thank you, though. It really means a lot to us to hear from each of you, to hear how you're implementing the things that JJ and I talk about each week. It just means a lot to us to be able to be part of your lives. And this week, the reason we are not broadcasting, or we're not doing it in person live, we are broadcasting live, but not in person live, is because we are going to a big fundraiser. It's the biggest fundraiser of the year for the Humane Society. It's actually one of my very, very favorite fundraisers each year, called Paws on Parade. And it got me thinking a lot about generosity. And so my topic this week is generosity. Now, there are so many different forms of generosity, different ways that you can be generous. People don't have to all be generous in the same way. If it was, we would really be lacking in certain ways. There are a number of ways that people can contribute in society, to each other, to your neighbors, to your family, to your friends, to your favorite cause. Hopefully all of you have something you're passionate about. Most of you know that I'm very passionate about animals. That's the cause that's probably one of the closest, nearest, and dearest to my heart, is animals, because we have to be the voice for them. They can't speak for themselves. We as people must be their voice. Animals are just such innocent creatures, and so if we can raise up together and protect them and help give them the best lives possible, then really we're raising that whole vibration of our planet and of our world. Now, this also extends to other facets of our society. You can really judge the character of a nation by how it treats its poor, by how it treats its prisoners, by how it treats its animals. All of those different facets of society, each one of them matters in their own right. And it's really interesting to study different countries and countries that really excel in certain ways, and then to look at the people and the culture in those countries as well. And so I challenge each of you to find something that you're passionate about. You probably already have some things that you're passionate about, and it might be something like your family. It might be those that are closest living with you. Maybe that's your biggest passion, and you want to be generous to those in your life that are close to you. But it'd also be great this week if you can think maybe a little bit outside of your normal comfort zone to something that you haven't really done a lot for yet, and think about how you can maybe be generous in a new way. Oh, that door scared me. Sorry about that. But think about maybe how you can be generous in a new way, and how you can impact others around you, whether it's animals, children, adults, whatever that is. Think about what's near and dear to you. And there are so many different ways that we can be generous too. It's not just financial. Sometimes when we hear the word generous, sometimes the first thought that comes to mind is financial and giving money. And that's great for some people. For some people, that's the best way to be generous, because that's what can come to you in a manner that you can do it. For other people, being generous with your time is the most valuable gift that you can give. And sometimes it's energy, being able to give your time and your energy to somebody that needs it. And it's also great to be really thoughtful, and generosity through thoughtfulness. Sometimes it's just those little things that can make a world of difference in somebody's life. It might be A thoughtfulness example would be going through maybe a drive-through line and you pay for the person that's behind you. Just little things like that. Or one of the things I like to do at Christmas when I go Christmas shopping is I'll give a candy cane or something, little to the cashiers that are working so hard. You can do that throughout the day too. Find some type of a small treat that you can give to a cashier or the crossing guard at your school if you take children to school, different things like that. Just these everyday people that you encounter in your life. How can you brighten their day a little bit simply by being generous? Now, when we're talking about generosity, in essence, you're also building good karma. We all know about how karma works, where when you when you need to pay a debt, you may have done something that you didn't have awareness or understanding of, and so you end up having a debt that has to be paid karmically. Or maybe you knew that you were doing something wrong, and you just knew that you were going to have to take the consequences and have to pay that karmic debt. Well, the flip side of that also works. When you do good things, when you help, when you benefit the world, you're also building good karma. And so who doesn't want to have extra good karma in your life? And on top of building good karma, it just feels good to be generous. And it really takes all of us coming in together to make the world the best that we can, and learning what's the easiest, what's the best, what's the way that you can most productively be generous, and how can you network that with other people to have a really great impact. We see this a lot in the nonprofit sector. When I work with different nonprofits, one of the first things I do when I go into a nonprofit to help them restructure or build is to talk to them about who their key people are and what they excel at, and what each of the people I'm working with, what they excel at, what do they prefer to do. And when you figure that out about yourself, then you can figure out, so do I like being generous financially? Am I able to send a check to a nonprofit, or am I able to help contribute to a young mother, or to a neighbor that's struggling, or somebody who's sick, or to help animals, or whatever that causes? Are you able to help financially? Is that the best way that you can do it? Are you really, really busy, and so what works best for you is contributing financially? Then wonderful, that's perfect, that's needed in so many different areas. Are you instead somebody who's maybe struggling a little bit, or who is, you're pretty comfortable with where you're at with things, but finances isn't something that you're flowing with abundance with yet, but you do have extra time. You do have an hour that you can give to go walk dogs at the Humane Society, or you can brush cats at the Humane Society, or you can, spend an hour a week mentoring a young person, or maybe you can go help an elderly person. A lot of times they need socialization too. So maybe if you're more interested in people than animals, you could talk to a facility where you could go just sit for a half hour a week with an elderly person and talk to them, learn about their life story, help them feel and know that they are still valuable in this society. They have stories to tell that are so important and can be shared and passed down to other generations, or raising it up with the youth, mentoring somebody that's younger, or helping a neighbor. Maybe you have somebody in your life that that is sick, or really low in energy, or has pain, or has a recent injury or something, and you have some time, you can go lend them, whether it's going and offering to mow their yard, or see if they need a little bit of help with housework, or see how you can help. And sometimes being generous with your time in personal situations like that, sometimes it's best to not just ask what they need, but to go over and sit with the person and have some coffee with them and look around and see how you can help them. A lot of us have a strong ego, and we don't want to admit when we need help with something, or when we feel like we're lacking in something. We all want to be able to just take care of ourselves. And so sometimes it's really learning how to ease into that if you're helping somebody one-on-one versus helping somebody, at a nonprofit or a care facility or something like that. So it's really learning how to best serve while also helping maintain the dignity and just sending out love to all of those who need it, whether they're four-legged, three-legged, or two-legged. Learning to just be generous with your spirit as well is another thing. And sometimes being generous with your spirit, it's not even as much about time or money. It's maybe becoming able to dig deeper into yourself. Is there somebody that you feel like maybe you need to forgive? Maybe you've been holding on to some feelings for too long. Now, I'm not talking about people that are necessarily toxic in your life and needing to bring them back in if it's something that's going to be toxic and hurting you. It's always important to also protect yourself and to know where to open yourself to other people and where it's good to have some safe boundaries, but not allow feelings to eat you up inside either. Now, sometimes when we talk about forgiveness, it's about learning to forgive and to let go so that you can be free. But sometimes if you're needing to be a little more generous with your spirit, and it's about forgiving because you realize it was a one-time thing with somebody, or this isn't, how they always are. Sometimes, we all make mistakes, and it's always so nice to be able to be forgiven for those mistakes and to be able to move on. So sometimes you can be generous of your spirit and forgiving somebody who needs to be forgiven and just allowing that love to flow back into your life, opening up to them. Let go of grudges. If you've got somebody in your life and they're there to stay in your life, then isn't it so much better and so much more freeing to let go of those grudges and to dialogue and have the communication and to create the relationship that you want with the people that are in your life now. So that's just another one of those aspects of generosity, learning when to forgive, how to be thoughtful, letting love in. And thoughtfulness is a great way to play with generosity. There's so many wonderful random acts of kindness that you can do for people and for animals. And then through this week, try and see how you can come up with new ways that maybe you hadn't thought of before, or maybe things you've heard of but you haven't done. Maybe paying for that, person's coffee that's behind you in line, or paying forward compliments too. Sometimes just our words and noticing things is a nice way to be generous. Giving your time, all of these different things. Figure out what works for you, what works for your lifestyle, and just try to be a bit more generous this week. Also being generous with yourself and your own time, making sure that you take some time for yourself, spoiling yourself a little bit. If you've had a really long, hard day, then take time at the end of the night to take a nice candlelit bubble bath. That can do wonders for restoring your soul. It's important to be generous to yourself as much as it is to be important in being generous to everyone else too. And having a good balance of that, taking care of yourself and then also giving to others. And then I love seeing this in action when we see how a village can really come together. And it's through all of these different ways, finding out what your strengths are to give, and then giving in those aspects, challenging other people, leading by example, and then seeing how you can work together. Maybe you can network together with the people that are already in your life, or maybe you can work on networking together with a nonprofit and being generous. There was one of my favorite ways to see this come together, because I am passionate about animals, is with trap, neuter, return. We see this a lot in various aspects of the animal welfare, but with the trap, neuter, return, there are many different steps. This was another example that happened this week. So through the generosity financially of PetSmart Charities that gave a grant to All About Animals, it's been free through the month of April to get stray cats spayed and neutered. Now that generosity came from people who, one at a time, a lot of PetSmart's charity dollars will come when you're checking out, and they ask if you'd like to donate an extra $1 or $5 or whatever amount you want to donate to the PetSmart charities. So all of these people who've been buying things for their own pets and donate that extra dollar or $5 or whatever amount at the end of their purchase, that money's come together through the foundation, and then part of that has been able to come through and give this wonderful grant that's helping so many animals' lives by preventing more homeless kittens by getting all of these stray cats fixed. And so that's one aspect of it. There's the financial aspect. And then the time aspect too. So of course it takes time to trap the cats. Of course it takes time to care for them in recovery. And then it takes time to get them to the clinic. The transports for All About Animals filled up immediately this month because there's so much demand for it. And so to get them in for the free clinic, we had to drive them down to Detroit. Well, there are some people that excel at being very generous with their time with driving back and forth. And Natalie, if you're watching, hi Natalie, thank you so much for helping this week with that with me. I greatly appreciate it. She drove from Flint all the way down to Warren and back, and then the next day to pick them up all the way down there and back. And for some people, that's a good way to be generous. For somebody like me, it would be very, very challenging for me to be able to make that drive. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the people who donated. And then my contribution is being able to trap them, deal with them, through the recovery, keep them clean, water fed, It's not that hard when you break it apart into small bits and pieces like that. And the same example can be used in many different aspects of life. Whatever it is you're passionate about and whatever it is that you need to get done in life, figure out how you can work it together as a village and break it up into smaller pieces, and then it's not so overwhelming to get one task or one goal done because it's broken up into different parts. See who you can partner with that's in your village. How can you plan something together? There's a group in Lansing once a year, Epiphany, that gets together and they pool money together, and then they break up into different teams and they figure out how they want to do random acts of kindness. And each of the groups takes whatever money they brought together, and then they brainstorm and they go out and they do the random acts of kindness, and they come back together in the evening. That would be such a fun thing to do. And there are so many different things that you can do, so many different examples. So I'd love to hear what you feel like doing as being generous. I'd love to hear examples that you've either done recently or examples that you plan to do this week. Feel free to post that in the comments down below, and I will be checking in. Thank you so very much. If you would be generous, take a moment of your time to go to the Earth and Sky Center page, give us a like. Maybe if you feel like sharing the page, share the page. I'd love to get this out to more people that are out there too. Feel free to share the video or share the page. It is because of all of you that we feel passionate about doing what we do, and I just want to thank all of you for being wonderful, beautiful people, and I wish you a very, very wonderful week. Next week we will be back live and in person. If anybody wants to join us live, you feel free, or feel free to join us live on Facebook instead. All right, have a great week. Thank you.